Hi, I'm Jorge, a developer evangelist at Oracle. And in this video, I'm going to explain you how to set up and run AI Optimizer and Toolkit. Oracle's AI Optimizer and Toolkit is an open source project created by our team, the Microservices and AI team. It is meant to take your generative AI projects from prototype to production independently of its size. And it helps you by simplifying and accelerating every step on the way. Oracle's AI Optimizer and Toolkit allows you to modify the configuration of your model to suit your unique needs, extend its knowledge using structured and unstructured data, test every iteration that you do with it, and then generating a microservice that you can directly deploy into production. In this video, I will cover the following topics. I will start by explaining how AI Optimizer and Toolkit works, so you understand all the moving pieces and how they play together. Then I will start to configure each of those pieces in my Mac. And if you're using a Linux or a Windows computer, feel free to ask in the comments of this video or just check the documentation because everything is covered there. And then I will run the basic configuration with all these dependencies up and running. So you see AI Optimizer and Toolkit running. And finally, I will finish with a very brief recap. We at the Microservices and AI team we're very excited with all the possibilities that generative AI offers to both companies and individuals. But we were also aware that an LLM by itself is not enough to produce a useful AI tool. You have to go far beyond that. You have to choose the proper LLM, and then you have to configure it to suit your needs. You have to extend its knowledge and its capabilities. And that's challenging. We wanted to participate in this field in a way that you could freely use and even contribute to if you feel inclined to do so. So the team created AI Optimizer and Toolkit, the no-code open source tool powered by Oracle that you can use to create your own MOIs. AI Optimizer and Toolkit connects to local and remote LLMs and offers you a chat interface to interact with them. Then you can modify the parameters of those LLMs or even customize the prompts that you're using. It also helps you with the retrieval augmented generation ingestion process, the process of adding new data to extend the knowledge of your tool. And it does so by using the embedding models that will add the semantical classification to the data and storing the embedding and the data in an Oracle database 23AI using its AI vector search capabilities. Then you can use that additional data to verify the quality of the tool that you are creating, and you can test this automatically. Once you're happy with the results, then you can produce a microservice that you can connect to using Spring AI and deploy it to production. And all of this, you can achieve it without having to type any line of code in any programming language. It is just the user interface. AI Optimizer and Toolkit is implemented in Python using a client-server architecture. The front end is a web user interface for the user. And the backend is a server that runs the core functionality and offers a REST API. The server uses LLM and embedding models that run locally using Ollama. But it is also OpenAI compatible, so you can use remote models and interact with them. In any case, you can customize the parameters and the interactions with those models, and you can use Oracle Database 23AI to extend the knowledge of your system using both structured and unstructured data. Does this sound interesting? I hope it does, because this is just the starting point for creating your generative AI projects and make them come true. And this is what I'm going to do in the next videos. I'm planning for a series of videos that are related to a project on AI. So I would appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to this channel so other people might be aware and I have more support for creating other content like this. Thank you. Before we run and configure AI Optimizer and Toolkit, I want to take care of the dependencies. First, we are going to need some tool to run containers. Containers are a very useful way to install, run, and dispose when you no longer need them, software in your system. And you can use Docker, Podman, Ranger, or just Colima as I did in another video. You have the link over here, just click and you will see how to do that in your Mac. You don't need this, but you can run Olama in your system. This is very useful and also very economical because you don't have to pay for the usage of your models. Obviously, it won't be as fast as running the models in properly accelerated hardware, unless you have a very powerful GPU. But you can combine the local models with the remote ones by using the proper API keys. In any case, if you use Olama, the data that you use in your interactions with the model will be private. So it won't leave your system. And also, it won't be used for future trainings of those models. Oracle Database 23AI is only required if you are going to use retrieval augmented generation, right? But let's be honest, this is so useful that you don't want to live without it. And you can use the free Database 23AI container. Finally, to run the AI Optimizer and Toolkit software, you need Python. And it has to be the 3.11 version. You cannot use a newer or an older one. So if you're using a recent Mac, most likely you are going to install 3.11 side by side with the built-in version in your Mac. Now that I have explained all the required components, I'm going to cover how to install each one of them in your system. Assuming that we already have a container runtime installed in our system, the cautious system administrator should check that everything is up and running. And if you're not a cautious system administrator, you should too, because it will save you time and a lot of sweating. So let's go here and check the status of our Colima installation. And well, we realize that it is stopped. So Colima start, and it shows some warnings because of the latest version that I have installed, but it starts running, and hopefully in a few seconds, I will have it up and running. Yes, here it is. So if we do Colima status now, that would be what you would see if status. If yours is up and running, you will get this message instead of the one that I got at the beginning. Although we have just started having our container runtime ready, we don't want to run Olama as a container in a Mac with Apple Silicon because it won't be able to take advantage of the GPUs. You can find more information on this on a link that I have included in the notes. But the idea here is that you want to have the Olama runtime running on your hardware. If you're using an AMD 64 with CUDA enabled GPU running Linux or Windows, then you can use the container, but please take all the steps to ensure that it is using the GPU. If Olama is installed in your system, then you can use brew if it is a Mac. So brew install Olama. And in my case, this is already installed, and as you can see, I have everything that I need in my system. Then you can use brew to run the server that you're going to use. So brew services start llama, and it will run the service. If you have reinstalled it, you can just restart. If you have updated the version of Olama, you can restart the server. If you don't want to brew to run the services, you can go with /opt /homebrew opt again, then Olama, bin, Olama, and then serve. In my case, this is going to fail because I am already running the service as an homebrew service. But if you don't want the homebrew service, you can go with this version. We're going to interact with some LLM models, so we need to install them. We need to download them into our systems. And here you can choose the models that you want, but in my case, I'm going to use Llama 3.1 and MXPay for the embeddings. So what I'm going to do here is Llama pool to bring the models to my system, then Llama 3.1, and same thing, but with Llama pool MXPay embedded large for the embedding system. And those will be downloaded in our system. Here it has just checked that they are the latest version. If you are doing this for the first time, it will take a little bit longer because they have some size and you need them to be locally available in your computer. You also want to have models online, you will need the OpenAI API key to authenticate to OpenAI and use their service. So have that ready for when we connect to those. Oracle Database 23AI can be installed in a container and it will make our lives easier. That's why we wanted to have the container runtime that I mentioned before. But you can choose to run it in a different system or in the cloud using OCI or a different cloud provider. In this case, we are going to go with the simplest option, and we're going to spin up a container. And what we have to do in order to do that is use this command on the command line, and we will get the container. And then we can use Docker to check when the container is ready to be used. And you can say logs -f, db free, and this message over here means that the container has finished booting up and is ready to be used. Let's go with the application now. We will start by getting a copy of the source code for the project and go to its directory. So we're going to use git clone to get the code and then cd AI Optimizer. And as I mentioned before, AI Optimizer and Toolkit requires exactly Python 3.11. You shouldn't try with an older or a newer version because it won't work properly. If you are already using macOS with Python that comes installed, I recommend you use Homebrew to install the right version for running the software. So this is going to be brew install Python and then the @ and the version that you want. And it will go and download Python 3.11, which in my case is already installed here. You can then use this with the, you can invoke it, this Python version, by using Python 3.1, and then you will see that if I say version, it shows the right one. Oh, sorry, not this one, but Python 3.11. And we can see that the version there is the right one. So what we need to do now is to have all the dependencies installed for AI Optimizer and Toolkit. And we could install them directly in our system, but this is not very convenient, and it is a best practice to define a virtual environment in which to store these dependencies. The virtual environment will allow you to install code required for this project independently of others that you may have in your system. So they will be isolated. Creating a virtual environment is trivial in your, this is a very easy command line. If you have never done this before, you will see that it is very easy to do. And what we're going to do is to go to the source directory here, and then we will use Python 3.11 and then -m for the module vm, and then .vm. This is how we're going to call the directory for the virtual environment, and we're going to use the copies option. That was fast, and now we can use source.vm and then bin and active. And this activate, yes, goes and changes some environment variables so we can use the virtual environment that we have created. So now we can use pip, and it will be using the pip in the virtual environment, install, and then upgrade pip will and setup tools. And it changes the version of these tools only within the virtual environment if needed. And then we can go and install the rest of the dependencies which are documented in the project. So by using pip again, and then install and -e, and the regular expression for the packages, that is going to be all. And now it will take some time, but it's downloaded each one of the dependencies and preparing them to be run from within the virtual environment. As you can see here, it says 50 something of 208, but it is going very fast because most of them are tiny, and some of them require some more time because they need to be prepared, organized, and even compiled in some cases to be ready for the project. But once this whole process has finished, you will be able to run this, and it will contain exactly the same dependencies that we are using to develop this project. So it's going to be a very safe virtual environment that it will guarantee that you run the AI Optimizer and Toolkit in the same conditions that we do here. Client and server can be launched separately, but in this case, we're going to use the simplest option to get AI Optimizer and Toolkit up and running. That means that we will have to do some manual configuration, but I will take care of that. The following command will launch the client and the server in case the latter hasn't been launched yet. Now, if we go to our browser and we visit that URL, we will get the AI Optimizer and Toolkit user interface. And notice that it complains about no language models being configured or enabled, so it won't allow us do anything here. Okay, let's solve that right away, and let's go to the models part of the configuration. We want to enable Llama 3.1, and we are going to edit that model and enable it. So we save the change, and now we can go to the chatbot and talk to it. We can say, hello, do you speak Klingon? And well, we have to wait for a short while it talks to our Olama instance here, and it provides us with an answer. I don't speak any Klingon, but I assume that this is some way of saying yes. And well, it says I'm not an expert, but I can speak Klingon. I would consider that a success. So I just want you to finish with some comments about the dialogue here. There were no embedding models or configure enable for RAG. We do have a model, but we haven't enabled it. And the database is not configured, even though it is running, because it needs some particular configuration. And I will talk about it when I explain what RAG is and how to take advantage of it. So that's it. In this video, I have explained how AI Optimizer and Toolkit works and the dependencies it requires to do that job. We have run it, done the basic configuration, and even interacted with an LLM, which is not bad for a short video. I will be creating new videos that will refer to this one for the configuration, in which I will be explaining other features of AI Optimizer and Toolkit and how to get the most out of them in real-world projects. So get ready, because this is just the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Stay curious, hack your code. See you next time.